The Disney parks are famous for their incredible ability to tell stories, and typically, those stories are pretty airtight. If they want to fit something into the universe of a movie, they do it pretty well. If they want to make something its own original story that's left open-ended, they do that beautifully as well. But even the best stories can still be prone to some strange continuity errors, and that's what I want to talk about today. Hello everybody, and welcome back to Mupptown Funk. I'm your host Ty, as always, and today I'm going to be breaking down 5 weird continuity errors in the Disney parks. These are times where Disney rides, parks, and lands have strange continuity choices that result in inconsistencies with the source material that they're based on. Let's start off by taking a look at one of my favorite continuity errors from Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. For those of you who don't know, Galaxy's Edge is actually part of the official Star Wars canon. The planet Batuu, the shops, the characters that live there, the characters that visit there, the rides, they all officially happened. Even as they continue to add more characters from different eras of Star Wars, they continue to provide canon explanations and tie-in media explaining the story. Surprisingly enough, due to just how closely they collaborated with Lucasfilm and their story group, there are very, very few continuity errors in Galaxy's Edge, and it all lines up with the Star Wars canon pretty much perfectly. I've only ever spotted 2 errors in the land. Both of them, weirdly enough, being on Rise of the Resistance. Starting with number 1, Kylo Ren's helmet. Rise of the Resistance takes place between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. In The Last Jedi, Kylo Ren smashes his helmet, and he doesn't repair it until the following movie. But every time you see Kylo in Rise of the Resistance, he's wearing his helmet. Since this park sticks so closely to the canon, it's always stood out as a notable continuity error to me. But I think, although unconfirmed, there's a pretty obvious behind-the-scenes reason for why this was done, because Adam Driver didn't reprise his role as Kylo Ren for this ride. And since they couldn't get the actor, they decided to give Kylo Ren his helmet back as a workaround, since you would have to see the actor's face in all of the ride's screen-based segments. This has actually never been confirmed. Who plays Kylo Ren in Rise of the Resistance has never been officially stated, but his voice here sounds an awful lot like Matthew Wood, the go-to backup voice for Kylo Ren. Interesting that Adam Driver didn't return when the rest of the sequel trilogy's main cast did, but it's not the first time that's happened. So while this is a continuity error, I think it works as a pretty clean way to hide the fact that they had to get a different actor. As much as Star Wars loves trying to explain all of its little plot holes, there's never been a canon explanation for how Kylo Ren has his helmet back here. Sure, you could say he has backup helmets, but then that begs the question, why didn't he just wear one of those in The Rise of Skywalker instead of going and repairing the old one? To this day, all Kylo Ren appearances that take place between these 2 movies continue to feature him without his helmet, including the Kylo Ren comic series that recently wrapped up. Although, funnily enough, many of the covers of that series do feature Kylo in his helmet. I guess they thought it was more iconic or looked cooler and would help the comic sell better or something. This error in Rise of the Resistance stands out as a pretty rare time where Star Wars didn't try to cover up a continuity error, which is okay, we can just ignore it. As a Star Wars fan, I'm very used to ignoring things in the canon I don't like. Number 2, Poe's X-Wing. The other continuity error in Galaxy's Edge is, funnily enough, also on Rise of the Resistance, and it's the appearance of Poe Dameron's X-Wing. After you leave the first pre-show room, you get to see the iconic orange and black X-Wing off to your side before you take off in the Resistance transport. But, much like Kylo Ren's helmet, Poe's X-Wing was destroyed in The Last Jedi. Yeah, Last Jedi destroyed a lot of objects and people and character arcs. Anyway, in The Rise of Skywalker, Poe has a new X-Wing, one that's orange, white, and blue. So why not just use that one in the ride instead, considering it's what he gets after the black and orange X-Wing? Well, I'm not really sure. My only theory here is that maybe they weren't informed that Poe had a new-looking X-Wing in The Rise of Skywalker, considering this ride and that movie were being worked on at the same time. but considering how closely tied to the canon they had everything with Galaxy's Edge be, that would be a bit odd, right? The appearance of this X-Wing implies that Poe got another one after The Last Jedi, and this one also blew up, and then he got another one for Rise of Skywalker. Which is really funny, and would mean it's the third X-Wing we've seen Poe fly that blew up. But luckily for us, Star Wars Story Group head and continuity wizard Pablo Hidalgo actually created a canon explanation for Poe's X-Wing here. In the Rise of Skywalker Visual Dictionary, it's mentioned that Poe simply sometimes repaints his new X-Wing in the color scheme of his old one in tribute to it. It's kinda stupid, but I mean, it's better than nothing, I guess. Look, at least we could all agree, it's not the worst explanation for something happening in the sequel trilogy. Poe knows that all too well.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Number 3, Planes characters. This next one is very recent and also really funny to me. It's not in a ride or a land, it's actually on a construction wall. You see, currently in Disney California Adventure, they're building a new bathroom by Avengers Campus and Cars Land. And on the construction walls, they decided to make some Marvel parody posters with Cars characters. As a Cars fan and a Marvel fan, I love these, okay? We have Iron Van, Guardians of the Gas Station, and Carpool and Gasoline. That's amazing. But I instead want to focus your attention on the Captain America the Winter Soldier poster. Sorry, Captain Americar the Winter Tires. Like the rest of these posters, it's made up of original CGI artwork, but this one features reused images from, of all things, planes. Yes, planes. At the top of the poster, in addition to a Quinjet and helicarrier, you'll see what looks like some generic military aircraft. But if you look closely, you'll see that those generic air vehicles are actually reused pieces of character art from the first Planes movie. We have this background helicopter named Hector Vector in merchandise, and then two significant characters from the movie, Bravo, and the main character himself, Dusty Cropper, using the military paint job he gets at the end of the film. It's just really funny that they decided to reuse images from Planes for this poster instead of create a couple more original designs. Over on my Cars channel, we frequently joke about how nobody cares about Planes and how it's almost never referenced, and this is an absolutely wild thing to do. Really goes to show you Planes is so obscure that they're willing to take its main character and have him be a background character somewhere else and act like no one's supposed to notice. This is so funny to me. Also, while we're at it, there's actually an advertisement for Cars 3 where the characters go to a movie theater and watch a Guardians of the Galaxy parody called Cardians of the Galaxy, and unfortunately, this poster doesn't line up with that. I have a whole video about that over on my Cars channel. You should check it out. Anyway, number 4, 2 Swedoms. Swedoms is... I don't know how to pluralize this. Anyway, at the end of the beloved Muppet Vision 3D, there's a continuity error that I've always found pretty odd. As we all know, Swedoms is a walk-around character. I have to use past tense while talking about this now, I'm sorry. Swedoms was a walk-around character that would come out during the show looking for Bean Bunny, and then he would return again at the end to try to put out the massive fire that started in the orchestra pit. At the end of the show, the Swedish chef blows a hole in the wall of the theater, and we see Kermit come in on a fire truck. And in this film section, if you look closely in the background, you could see Swedoms standing outside, while the walk-around Swedoms is still in the theater in front of you. This is just a really strange oversight. It just seems like no one realized that, oh yeah, there are going to be 2 Swedoms here. Swedoms is Swedomi. Maybe the plural of Swedoms is just Swedoms. And finally, we have what is easily the most infamous Disney Parks continuity error in recent memory. Number 5, the Hatbox Ghost in Florida. We all know the story already. The Hatbox Ghost is a character that was supposed to be in the California Haunted Mansion in the attic after The Bride. But his effect didn't work well, and he was removed very early on, becoming this legendary lost character. In 2015, Disney officially brought him back to the California mansion with a new figure with a screen-based face, and placed him on a balcony outside of the attic after the Constance scene. In the early 2010s, horror director Guillermo del Toro was working on a Haunted Mansion movie starring the Hatbox Ghost, who was going to act as this lone figure that traveled from Haunted Mansion to Haunted Mansion. He said that he did this in part because he really wanted Disney to put the character back in the ride. While the plans for this movie fell through, the Hatbox Ghost, of course, did return in 2015. A new Haunted Mansion movie would finally release in 2023, and while completely separate from Del Toro's version, it did keep the concept of the Hatbox Ghost being a major player. In the 2023 movie, the Hatbox Ghost acts as the primary antagonist, and around the same time this was coming out, Disney announced that the character would finally be making his way into Florida's version of the ride. People were very excited until Disney announced where the character was going to be placed. Obviously, everyone assumed that the Hatbox Ghost would be placed after the attic, just like he is in California. But it turns out that Florida's mansion doesn't have enough space to fit him there, since it was built knowing that they wouldn't incorporate the character. So it was decided to place him in, of all locations, the endless hallway at the start of the ride. This is already an odd choice, and in my opinion, it really takes away from the endless hallway one of the coolest effects in the ride, because your eyes are just drawn to the bright blue guy in the corner. By the way, Hatbox Ghost in Florida is way too bright and just really sticks out. But what really bothered fans, and what makes this eligible for this list, is that it completely breaks the story of the ride. You're not supposed to see ghosts in the Haunted Mansion until after Madame Leota does her seance to make them all materialize. Before that, you just hear voices and sounds and allusions to ghosts like the candle. And the Hatbox Ghost, a full-fledged ghost that you can clearly see being here, completely breaks that. Disney, of course, knew this and created what may very well be the funniest and stupidest explanation for a continuity error I have ever heard. And that's saying something. I'm a Marvel fan and a Star Wars fan. I hear these like every day. They claimed that the Hatbox Ghost appears earlier because all the ghosts in the Haunted Mansion are happy haunts, as the song states. And the Hatbox Ghost isn't a happy haunt. I cannot take this seriously. This is so friggin' funny to me. This is such a lame and lazy excuse, and one that makes you call into question the emotions of everyone in the ride, which is insanely weird. You're telling me that these guys who are constantly shooting at each other are happy haunts? You're telling me that this woman who killed her 5 husbands is happy? Actually, I guess Constance she is happy. She seems pretty happy about it. But if they put a new bride figure in Florida that's supposed to look sad again, like the new one in California, I'll be the first in line to say, hey, I thought these were all happy haunts, Disney. They're supposed to be happy. Also, Hatbox Ghost looks pretty friggin' happy, man. According to Disney, the Hatbox Ghost's status as not a happy haunt means that he's not bound to Leota's spell and can materialize whenever he wants. Disney's weird hand-wavy explanation implies that either the Hatbox Ghost is such an evil ghost that he's not confined to Leota's spell, which once again calls characters like Constance into question, or they're saying that he's not a happy haunt, as in he's not a resident of the mansion. And perhaps he comes from somewhere else? If we look at the Haunted Mansion movie that came out around the time of this introduction, both of these answers actually make sense. This explanation seems to be a tie-in with the 2023 movie, where the Hatbox Ghost does actually appear outside of the mansion before the ghosts physically materialize. Yes, we do see Constance before him, but she's in this strange, flickering state where she hasn't fully materialized, and the film later establishes that, yes, she is bound to Leota's seance. So, here we have it, the Hatbox Ghost is not bound to the seance and can appear before the others. The movie also establishes that, in this continuity, the Hatbox ghost is from a separate location, and he's come to terrorize the Haunted Mansion. So, it does actually kind of align with the continuity of the movie, but still not entirely, considering that they send him to hell at the end of that movie, and also, the Haunted Mansion movie is very clearly not canon to the ride for a wide variety of reasons. Now, as bad as the Hatbox Ghost being here is, in my opinion, and as stupid as Disney's explanation is, they did, at the very least, add a couple of details that help it work and fit into the continuity of the ride a little bit better. It's pretty hard to spot. In fact, when I went on the ride with the Hatbox Ghost there, I don't think I even noticed this, but they did place a slightly open door to his left, as well as some wet footprints on the ground, implying that he just walked in, presumably from another location. So, that does put a little bit of a band-aid on the situation, but I think this is just a double whammy of change made to the ride that people don't like because it looks bad and was a bad place to put the character, and change people don't like because it also causes a big continuity error that was very poorly covered up. I frequently hear people say that they need to put the Hatbox Ghost at the end of the attic, and I agree. I don't see why they can't, but it seems like he just physically cannot fit in that location, unfortunately. So, we're going to have to make do with this guy for now, and hopefully one day they come up with something a little better. I hope. Anyway, guys, this has been 5 weird continuity errors in the Disney parks. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Let me know what other strange continuity errors you've picked up in the Disney parks over the years. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye now.